If you're gaming and you hate the games that you're playing, I promise you, you're playing the wrong games. A few months ago, I decided to take time to play two games that I acquired in my Humble Bundle monthly games, Shenzhen.io and TIS 100. I hate to admit this, but I can't remember the last time a game has made me smile so hard. These games are programming games. I don't want to give too much away, but I'll do my best to summarize without giving away the game. In Shenzhen.io, you find yourself as a software engineer at a company in Japan. Tasks are assigned to you via your company email, and you're responsible for completing those projects using whatever provided limitations. These limitations can be power consumption, cost, or lines of code. You have to use your coding skills with a fairly simple language, combined with a bit, and I use this term lightly, electrical engineering. It's fun, and once I solve a puzzle, I enjoy going back to it and trying to figure out how to optimize my design. TIS 100 is a fictional machine, and the game is just about creating programs. No real story here, but I love the bank switching mechanic. Both games come with these manuals that you must read in order to understand the commands and how the game works. Now, these games are definitely not for everyone, or even most people. However, as someone who has multiple assembly programming books lying around, I love it. Managing your cycles, optimizing your code, and figuring out better ways to do things after you've struggled to get something to work after 20 minutes, it's an awesome feeling. These two games are easily among my favorite games that I've played in a long time. So, why am I ranting about these weird games that probably none of you would be interested in? Recently on the internet, I've seen many commentators talk about how gaming is dead or dying, how the game they waited so long for is a letdown and didn't live up to their expectations. To that I say, play something else. Instead of wasting your time, hate playing the game, or going online and making or watching multiple videos about hating the game. Just play something else. If I can find a game that scratches my itch of microprocessor programming, I promise you, the game that you want to play is out there somewhere. It may not be presented in the way that you thought it would be presented, but it does exist. Steam currently stands at over 100,000 games. Now, I know not everything there is a gem. There are a ton of asset flips, weird, broken, and abandoned projects. But I promise there's something there that will bring you joy. itch.io has over 200,000 games, with a ton of those games being free, and some even being playable on consoles, such as the Game Boy Color, Sega Genesis, and even PlayStation Vita. This is before we even go into the previous generation backlogs. I can't tell you how many original Xbox, PlayStation 2, and GameCube games that I still need to get around to. The same goes for the PlayStation 1, Sega Saturn, and I still even have a few left on the Nintendo 64. I think the problem is, so many gamers feel abandoned by mainstream game studios because gaming has shifted from the core player to the casual player. Let me explain. When I was a kid, you almost had to hide that you played video games or even watched anime, or else you would get made fun of. These were niche hobbies, despite selling millions of systems. During that era, game studios appealed to the core audience, which was usually the nerdiest among us. Games featured a significant amount of depth and secrets. However, most of these games were made on a very limited budget. As more people became gamers, the budgets grew, but that also meant that these games had to change to accommodate the new player base, as studios needed to sell more copies to match those budgets, so games became more streamlined, adding things that are now referred to as quality of life features, such as quest markers and aim assist. Studios did everything they could to accommodate this new audience, so they felt catered to. And this is not going to change. I promise you, there are a lot more casual gamers than there are core gamers. In the process of doing so, many core gamers feel abandoned, because many of our favorite series are now shells of their former selves. This is not something that's just limited to gaming. This happens when anything becomes mainstream. Things have to be simplified and streamlined to make it accessible to the masses. Though when that happens, there are always those that continue to create the things that you like. Instead of complaining about things you hate, try to find the things that you love and sing their praises to the high heavens. When you do so, you send a message over to gamers that this game is great, which then allows that game studio to make more games like that. Now, I know it's more difficult to wade through the garbage of other games, or even to shuffle through the good games that you just don't care for. I know it's a lot easier to take whatever game that has been hyped up by gaming websites and conferences and dunk on how bad that game is on release, and then watch the sales charts and show how few people are playing that game and calling it a dead game. But then you have to ask yourself, why are you putting in all this effort to magnify something that brought you no joy, while something that could bring you joy is merely 10 clicks and 5 minutes of searching away? Why fight for the death of a game studio when you could be fostering the growth of another? More games, not less, is what I always say. After all, the more choices we have, the more people win. Why do I care what others find enjoyable that I don't? As long as they aren't hurting or exploiting others, I say live and let live. So enjoy your furry dating simulator, your one-button special fighter, or even your unpacking simulator. That's it for today, everyone. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your time.